Now that is how the Chicago Bears offense is supposed to look. And Caleb Williams had his best game yet against the Carolina Panthers. I think Bears center Coleman Shelton put it best when the Fox broadcast picked him up with a hot mic during the first half.
We got fire, man!
You are Locked On Bears, your daily Chicago Bears podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This is Locked On Bears, and I'm your host, Lauren Cox. I'm here to bring you your daily, in-depth Chicago Bears news and analysis. You can follow me on Twitter at CoxSports1. You can follow the podcast at Locked On Bears on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and the Locked On Bears YouTube channel, where you can keep up with all of our video podcasts as well. Thanks for making Locked On Bears your first listen today. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. Terms and conditions apply. On the show today, we look back at a great all-around offensive performance, including the best day yet from Caleb Williams, who just keeps getting better every single week. We also need to talk about this Bears defense. It's almost like boring or so expected that they're going to generate three turnovers and shut down the opposing offense. But we can't take that for granted or just assume that every single week. And they had another really strong performance on that end. And I also want to talk about both the Coleman Shelton hot mic moment, dropping the F-bomb on live television on Fox, and also something about this game that I think stands out is that it wasn't perfect for the Bears. They still made some mistakes in this one, and that's a good thing that they dominated and can still play even better than what we saw on Sunday. But this game for me is all about Caleb Williams, and in particular, how just on fire he was in this game. Not just regular on fire, but with the help of Coleman Shelton,
We got fire, man!
over the top on fire. And I'm going to try and play that as many times as I can over the course of this podcast episode, because stuff like that is so funny. And, we don't have the rights to use the video from the broadcast or anything. So I just pulled the audio and censored it for their, our listening audience, so we can make sure that's still safe for work there. But Caleb Williams was fire. And we've got a effing fire, man, with what Caleb Williams was able to do in this game, connecting up and down the field to a variety of receivers, and particularly honing in that deep ball has been something that has escaped him so far this season, just not quite on the same page with, guys like DJ Moore and Keenan Allen and Rome Odunze on the vertical passes that would just be not quite the timing that the Bears were looking for. But in this game, his best throw of the game, I think, was the deep touchdown to DJ Moore just outside of the red zone, where you can see on the snap, he turns and looks to his right, and it looks like the Bears had some kind of fake wide receiver screen set up over there. But you could tell he knew the whole time that he was going to be turning back to his left, where DJ Moore had one-on-one coverage. He drops in the perfect ball, and the initial look to the right holds the single deep safety. So the safety veers to the right side of the field. He looks off that safety by looking right first, knowing he's going to instantly then flip back to the left, has DJ Moore, and then it's a perfect pass right in the breadbasket in the back of the end zone. That is next level quarterbacking from Caleb Williams that we just haven't seen Chicago Bears quarterbacks consistently do, maybe ever. And those are the types of plays that we're already getting from Caleb Williams in his fifth game. To go through a progression, to look off the safety with his eyes, and to drop in perfect deep ball accuracy. That is, the perfect formula we've been looking for from Caleb. You also have to give this Chicago Bears offensive line some real credit, because Caleb had time to throw in the pocket consistently all game long. They picked up blitzes really well, with DeAndre Swift and Cole Kmet staying in on pass protection to help pop some of these big plays loose downfield. And it was just the perfect combination of what you're looking for from this Bears offense. They ran the ball generally well. DeAndre Swift ends up finishing with 3.5 yards per carry, but it never felt like the run game was as constipated as it had been earlier in this game, or earlier in this season, but that it wasn't elite in this game, but it got the job done, gave this offense balance. And it felt like this offense is getting closer to having an identity. And I want to take some more time this week on the podcast to explore this idea of the Bears finding an offensive identity. But it's felt like a team that could spread you out and deliver the ball up and down the field. And then in short yardage situation, they'll bring on 3 tight ends and an extra offensive lineman or 2. They brought in Karana Magaji and Doug Kramer on a play later in the game. 2 extra offensive linemen on the field, and they can run the ball between the tackles and get physical short yardage gains when they need to. And it just feels like this offense has everything going for it right now. Like stuff that we thought that they could do entering the season in week 1, things we were expecting. All offseason. It's like you got these 3 great receivers. You should be able to pass up and down the field. You added a lot of explosiveness in the running back position. You should be able to run the ball well. Like you brought in some new pieces on the offensive line. You in theory, like that group should be good enough. Plus you got the tight ends. Like everything we were anticipating that this Bears offense could do, we saw them do well in this game against the Panthers. It was sort of like the proof of concept of like, see, this does work and can work with the players and the coaches that they have. Credit to offensive coordinator Shane Waldron, the subject of plenty of criticism early on for the Bears, and putting together a game plan that you feel like maybe, just maybe,
Fire, man!
and that's exciting to have him be able to make those kind of adjustments over the course of a game. Early on, at least, it felt like the Bears were getting to more play action than we had seen earlier in the year, using a little bit more motion. I don't know over the course of the game if those numbers will bear out to have been significantly higher than each previous week, but the play action game was working for the Bears. The blitz game was working for the Bears offensively. I saw a stat at one point, Caleb Williams was like 6 of 6 passing against the blitz, in the first half in that game. I don't remember the exact ratio there, but they were clicking everywhere. And sure, you can chalk a lot of that up to it being a bad, very injured Carolina Panthers defense. But it's not like every quarterback has been completely dominating the Carolina Panthers defense all season. Like they hadn't given up 300 yards passing to any of their first 4 opponents. Sure, they'd given up plenty of points this season. And, I'm not here to say actually they're good, but just the point being you still have to actually beat up on the bad team. Not just anybody can dominate the Panthers quite this way offensively, the way that Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears were able to in this game. So yes, we still need to see them do it this well against a quality opponent down the line. But we can appreciate that hey, this is the first step, right? Okay, the offense had been bad through the first 3.5-ish weeks of the season. They got a little better against the Rams. Now they dominated the Panthers for 4 quarters. Great. That's the next step, going from no offense to, okay, you can beat up a bad team, and then now let's have a good offense against a good team at some point here. But you don't have one of those just yet because you got the Jacksonville Jaguars next week in London. It's not going to be this great test for this Bears offense just yet. But hey, let's enjoy it and let's celebrate this progress and growth from Caleb Williams. That now that they can build some confidence off of this, you can carry that into some of the harder matchups down later on in the season when you say, hey, if things are struggling again, we know what we're capable of. We saw what we were capable of against the Carolina Panthers. Let's get back to doing that and just being able to have some of that confidence in yourself to say, hey, you know what? We're playing well, and even beyond that,
Fire, man!
at the end of the day, Coleman Shelton really did signify it for us and put a nice theme on the day for the Bears on offense. And of course, the same thing on defense. We can't take for granted how well this Bears defense continues to play, and I don't want to just focus all the time on, hey, Caleb Williams, the offense, without acknowledging 3 turnovers was great for this offense to get some extra possessions and certainly keep the Panthers off the board and play with lead the whole time. They sacked Andy Dalton a few different times and got good pressure on the quarterback. This was another great defensive performance that we need to make sure we recognize and appreciate what they were able to do on that side of the ball next on Locked On Bears. The Locked On Bears podcast is brought to you by our friends at LinkedIn Jobs. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. And that's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs, because LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. I'm on LinkedIn. I bet you're on LinkedIn. And if you're not, that's okay. but a lot of your friends, family members, and coworkers are all part of the LinkedIn community. That's why LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals that you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but might be open to the perfect role. In any given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. So hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. The Locked On Bears podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. BetterHelp provides online therapy that's here to help you be your best self. Therapy is a great tool for facing your fears and finding ways to overcome them. I found through my own work in therapy, I do online therapy every single week, and it's a really important part of my own personal mental health regimen. Like, therapy has helped me learn that sometimes in life, fear tells you what direction to go in. To lean towards the things that you're scared of is what helps you grow as a human being and live your fullest, best life. So if you've been thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, and it's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. You fill out a questionnaire, they match you with a therapist, and if that therapist's not the right one, that's okay. You can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Overcome your fears with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. This Chicago Bears defense continues to help out this Bears offense in a way that felt so complementary and symbiotic in this win over the Carolina Panthers. Like, offense was driving down, scoring touchdowns. Defense was jumping on the field and clamping down on the Panthers. I mean, at one point, Andy Dalton was like 6 for 7 passing for 8 total yards. I think that was the exact stat at one point in this game. I mean, yeah, he was completing them, but like behind the line of scrimmage or right at the line of scrimmage and really not gaining anything on those plays. And the Bears will be happy to let you complete it for 1 yard on 1st and 10, then have 2nd and 9 and gain a yard and get 3rd and 8. That's absolutely, everything they would want to get in that defensive performance. There was a point there in the first half where, or for most of the first half, the Bears had more touchdowns than the Carolina Panthers had first downs through most of that first half. Like, that's how dominating on both sides of the ball they were. You had Jaquan Brisker delivering a really hard hit on the tight end treble and forcing that fumble, knocking that ball out and giving the Bears an extra possession to drive down and score. You had Kevin Byard making a super impressive interception that I don't know that it's going to get lost or overlooked in a game like this, but like, because the Bears were dominating so much, right? It wasn't like that interception flipped the game and, brought the Bears back in. Like, as far as the script of the game was going, it wasn't as though Byard's interception was like this pivotal play that we're all going to remember of like, wow, he really changed the game when he made that interception. But it was such an impressive interception when the way he, kind of boxed out the wide receiver and then like caught it full extension away from his body in his hands going to the ground. Like, that was really, really nice play by Byard that continues to look really great for the Bears after people were concerned with his rough end of the season last year and with the Eagles. Like, that seemed to be more of an Eagles problem than a Kevin Byard problem. And that's where you can feel really good about what the Bears are getting at the safety position, because both of your safeties generated big turnovers throughout this game. And then at the end, the third one was Tremaine Edmonds pulling the ball out or popping the ball out from Chuba Hubbard, I think it was, after the catch. And Edmonds comes over and just pops it out, reaches across his body, and another bonus possession for the Chicago Bears. Like, that's how you keep the Panthers down to 10 points, but it's also then how you give your offense the opportunity to, drive down the field and score, because I believe, and I'm trying to confirm this really quick as I do this live with you, that all 3 Bears turnovers led to all three turnovers generated by the defense led to points for the offense. 2 touchdowns and 1 field goal. They had to settle for a field goal after the Byard interception because that was when the offense drove down. Caleb Williams had a touchdown nullified by the clipping penalty, and then they couldn't get in from second and goal from the 15 or whatever it was. That was a little tough there, but still got a field goal on that drive, got touchdowns on the other 2 turnovers, and that's the defense putting the offense in a better position to put 17 more points on the board, and that's how you get up, to 36 in a game like this. And because the Bears were scoring pretty early and often over the course of this game, Carolina Panthers kind of abandoned their running game there. I mean, after the Panthers had that 7-0 lead, then the Bears scored on the next drive, and then scored again on the following drive to make it 14-7, and then scored one more time right before halftime to make it 21-7. And the Panthers they didn't completely stop running the ball, but got away from the running game because they were just trailing. I mean, they gave up 20 points in that second quarter and said, screw it, we gotta pass. And so Hubbard only ends up having 13 carries while the 2 quarterbacks combined for 35 pass attempts in this game. And they were running the ball okay. Hubbard had the big 38-yard breakaway touchdown run, finished 7.5 yards per carry. You take away that 38 yards, it was closer to, your regular 4 yards per carry game. But they were running the ball okay, but they couldn't pass consistently downfield. The Bears were aggressive, locking up everything, jumping on underneath routes because they knew Dalton really wasn't going to be able to burn them deep that well, that they could stay on top of these receivers. There's just not a lot of receiver talent either. It's not all on Andy Dalton. They got Deontay Johnson, he's all right, but besides him, it's the rookie Xavier Legette, and Jonathan Mingo's okay. They threw to Jalen Coker for the first time, just trying to get something going, but they really couldn't threaten the Bears enough vertically to open up things in the passing game. And so the Bears could just be aggressive on everything underneath and take advantage of, when Dalton was maybe trying to do a little bit too much and forcing things, trailing on the scoreboard, just got to try and get his team back in the game and absolutely couldn't. And really, part of it too is that the Panthers just couldn't convert on third down. I mean, the Bears were constantly getting off of the field. They were just 3 for 12 on their third down attempts in this game. So only 14 total first downs compared to the Bears, who had 24 over the course of this game. Under 200 yards passing, just barely over 100 yards rushing, I believe. I think they were at 120 net yards rushing because of the long Hubbard play. But Panthers were throwing everything they could at the Bears and just couldn't find anything because this defense played so well and got after Dalton, a number of different sacks there, including Andrew Billings running through unblocked in there. Jervon Dexter doing a good job cleaning up some pressure from at the edge where he could step up. Austin Booker got in on the sacks there. DeMarcus Walker was combining on a couple. Kyler Gordon on the blitz. It was coming from a lot of different places, and the Bears always seemed to have an answer for whatever the Panthers would throw at them. As much as this was a complete offensive performance, this was a very complete defensive performance. Pass rush, more or less taking the run out of the factor. The coverage was tight all around. Players across the board making plays, not really getting burned for much deep downfield. Sure, they got the touchdown, right? Okay. From there, the Bears then outscored them 30-0 over the next 2 quarters before a Panthers field goal got them 3 more points. But another day at the office for this Bears defense. It's hard to not just take it for granted that if you got a Andy Dalton under center, this defense doesn't have too much to worry about. You can trust that they're going to keep the other team under 20 and that your offense, if you can just score 17, 20 points every game, or 36 in this case, easy money, easy day at the office. And yet, with how great this Bears team looked across the board, there were some key mistakes at key moments. And I'm not bringing this up to be critical of the Bears. I want to keep the Victory Monday vibes going, but I think there's something to be said about having a really impressive win like this that also had things go wrong in it. That the win can mean a little bit more when you do overcome some adversity during the game and also give you signs that this team can still be even better. So we'll kind of look at where we can appreciate the less than perfect game that was still dominating next on Locked On Bears. This episode of Locked On Bears is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, America's #1 sportsbook. And right now you can start your year with a big return on FanDuel because they're going to give you $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. I don't know why FanDuel had the spread for this game set at Bears -3.5. They were 3.5 point favorites, won by 26. I was hammering the Bears on the spread in this game on FanDuel because that was easy to see coming. That the Bears win by more than 3.5 points. And if you had placed your first $5 bet on the Bears winning by more than 3.5, not only would that bet have cashed, but then FanDuel would have added an extra $200 in bonus bets right into your account. So don't miss your opportunity this week with the Bears playing the Jacksonville Jaguars in London, or you can bet on baseball playoffs, WNBA playoffs, NASCAR, the combat sports, tennis, soccer, you name it. They've got it all on FanDuel, all in their app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. So get your $200 in bonus bets by visiting FanDuel.com and downloading America's #1 sportsbook. This Bears team played great. All around, both sides of the ball. Special teams as well was fine. I mean, I don't know if they were spectacular. You had a missed extra point. I mean, it wasn't perfect special teams. But you know what I mean? Like, but the point being, played great and also had some mistakes along the way. And I feel like that's a good thing in a game like this. This is the game to make mistakes that you can learn from in a low stakes environment and still get better. And like it's kind of a weird concept, but like I heard a college football coach talking about this after a game this week, and sitting at his press conference, it kind of sunk into me, and I compared the Bears game to it similarly, where it's like, yes, of course, everything is great, but you don't leave this ball game against the Panthers saying, oh, we're a perfect football team. Nothing to learn, nothing to get better at. Everything is perfect. We're good to go. And you don't end up getting overly confident when you can look back at the tape and say, oh, well, you know, we won by 26, but we should have done this better and we should have done that better and we made a mistake here and we can still improve there. Like, it's good that you can be this good and also not be at your best. That's kind of the summarization here, right? That there's something to be said about the team fighting through a little bit of early adversity when you're trailing 7-0 after Chuba Hubbard breaks away for a 38-yard touchdown run. You know, I without having the all-22, I can't tell you exactly what happened on that play, but based on the replay that we saw, it looked to me like Jaquan Brisker had come down in the box and he was on like sort of the left side of the offense, right side of the defense. And so when they ran to that side, you had Edmonds and Edwards over pursued, and you had a linebacker in the same run gap as Brisker. Like they ended up kind of going to the same place. I don't know if they didn't realize that Brisker had come down or what, but like because there were too many Bears got to the outside, Hubbard then cut it up the middle. I think one of the defensive tackles missed a tackle. Kyler Gordon was late coming from the backside in the slot. Kevin Byard took a bad angle from his safety spot, and Hubbard takes off for the touchdown. And I think if the linebackers had stayed in their gaps, it would have been fine. Or if Gordon or Byard had come from the backside better, the play would have been fine. Or if the defensive tackle had made the play, it would have been fine. But across the board, no one was quite where they need to be. And so the Bears can look into this and say, hey, we held the Panthers to 10 points. We got 3 turnovers off of them. We dominated Andy Dalton. No revenge game for him. But hey, our run defense needs to be better. Like we can look at this tape and say, hey, we still got to be better, and can feel like, hey, we gave up a big run and we didn't let that unsettle us. We didn't let them gash us any more than that. We adjusted, we corrected, we improved, and we got better. And that's a really good feeling. Or I think, you know, on offense, Caleb Williams' first throw of the game was almost picked off and probably would have been a pick 6 if Keenan Allen doesn't reach back and deflect the pass that was heading right for, I think it was J.C. Horn or one of the Panthers corners, like just not on the same page on the first pass of the game. Like that could have been disastrous. So as much as Caleb Williams had a great game and the best game of his career so far, in my opinion, like he missed a couple throws. And that's good because this tells you that Caleb Williams was great and can still be better. You know what I mean? Like that's really good that we can be really happy with what he did and also know that this is not even, you fool, this is not even my final form. I don't know if it's a Dragon Ball Z quote. I don't remember if it's Frieza or if it's Cell that Goku's going against him. Like, this isn't even my final form. Like, this isn't even Caleb Williams' final form. And already we know that.
Fire, man!
So that's great. And we should absolutely celebrate and look forward to things being even better. Or, you know, offensively as a whole, they had the 4th and 1 play where they handed it to Roshan Johnson on kind of a fullback dive that was stuffed. Like, you know, the offense can be better. They had penalties at the goal line that had to settle for a field goal on one of those drives. But, you know, you could always find things to get better at. And I was glad that throughout this game, even as the Bears compiled a 20-point lead that became a 26-point lead at the end, or actually it was 23. Anyway, as the Bears compile the big lead, they still let Caleb Williams keep throwing with a lead. And that gave them more live reps for Caleb to keep getting experience, but more so like getting on the same page with the receivers, right? Like we still saw some miscommunications, especially with Keenan Allen, because Keenan Allen has missed a couple games and just hasn't been out there as much. But there were still plays when Caleb, threw to Cole Kmet behind him, and Kmet kept running and wasn't expecting the ball at that point. Like you can then work on those situations in a live game, but with the lowest stakes possible, up 27 or 26 or whatever it was at the time. You know what I mean? Like make those mistakes when you're up by 26 against a Panthers team that, okay, even if Caleb had thrown a pick or something in that situation, you'd be fine, right? The game was never at risk. You could have seen Matt Eberflus and Shane Waldron say, you know what? Okay, we're up by 3 scores or 2 scores, in the second half. We'll just hand the ball off 3 times and punt on every drive. They could have done that. They did go to running the ball more. I mean, they stopped passing. They turned down the passing a little bit, but they were still letting Caleb run the full offense, even with a lead, to get those live reps in low stakes environments, but still live reps against a real opponent. And like those extra quarter and a half of throws that he got in with a big lead is that much more experience so that Caleb can have that connection be stronger in games when the stakes are much higher, when the games are much closer, when the opponents are much better. But he's got more and more of those reps to fall back on. So it's like, okay, I've thrown this pass to Keenan Allen 1,000 times now. I know exactly where he wants it and how the timing should be, how early the ball should be out, where it should be on the field in front of him, exactly where he wants the ball to be. Because he's been able to get more and more of those reps in situations like this. Kudos to the Bears as well for just not taking the foot off the gas. I mean, obviously at the end you put in Tyson Bagent for the victory formation or whatever, and they definitely slowed things down to just take more clock off because they were going up tempo so often early in the game, and that was helping the offense get into a flow. But in the third quarter, you go up 30-7, and then still come out right after that and have Caleb Williams throw. You know what I mean? They were still passing the ball in the fourth quarter. They were starting drives with passes. I mean, the first drive of the fourth quarter was pass, run, pass, punt. It was not, maybe it was more conservative, but it wasn't just obvious going to hand the ball off to burn clock. It was like short passing game and getting things going, but that's what we want to see. And this is good progress from Shane Waldron. And maybe, just maybe, you feel like with this offense that you could say,
Fire, man!
because that's how much fun it has been to watch. Now, one last thing on that Coleman Shelton audio there, when he calls out, hey, we got an effing fire, man. Or we got effing fire, man. First of all, that's the jokes write themselves there, right? That's what Caveman said when they ran 2 sticks together for the first time. We got fire, But it also just it was a cool peek behind the curtain into how Caleb Williams adjusts things at the line of scrimmage. So the reason why he yells that out, if you want the full explanation here, I don't want to get too into the weeds here, but Nate Tice, the former quarterback, son of Mike Tice, on Twitter broke this down really well. That he says we got fire. He's calling out that the slot cornerback was going to blitz. The protection, they were making sure hey, there's a slot cornerback blitz coming. The only way he could they were running out of time. So it's hey, we got a fire blitz. It's a zone blitz from the slot there. They're calling that a fire blitz. And so Caleb calls out 32, and that's when 32 is a running play. I don't know the exact running play, but that's one of their signals for a run on that play. And so Caleb says 32, we're going to call this run play. Coleman Shelton says, hey, no, we got an effing fire, man. We can't run into the blitz. They're blitzing here, and you're calling this run into the blitz. But Caleb Williams called 32 and put a tag. He said some other numbers afterwards, put a tag on it, and made it a run pass option instead. So it was a designed running play, and Shelton's no, there's a blitz, but Caleb's hey, we're going to run it anyway, because on the right side of the field, he had DJ Moore running a quick out route, 3 yards upfield, and then turn and go to the sideline. And on the left side of the play, there was a bubble screen to either Keenan Allen or Rome Odunze. And then the rest of the play is the run. And so Caleb calls 32, Coleman Shelton says, hey, we got an effing fireman. Caleb snaps it anyway, turns and throws to DJ Moore, because he knows the slot cornerback's coming on the blitz, so he's not going to actually hand the ball off here. I'm surprised he didn't throw the bubble screen, because the slot cornerback would have been in charge of the screen, but was blitzing there. So he really could have gone either way, but he just took the free yards from DJ Moore. So that's sort of how the communication happens here, right? Shelton's trying to say, hey, don't run the ball. There's an effing fire blitz coming here. And Caleb's no, don't worry, I got it. got a run pass option here. He had answers to the test of the blitz coming, and Shelton tried to alert him, and we got a hot mic that picked it up with a swear word cleanly coming over on the Fox broadcast. I will admit, it loses some of its luster when I play it for you here and you hit the censor beep, because there's something about such a clear F-bomb dropping, the enunciation on the F and like the hard syllable of the K at the end before the ing, like just snaps nicely. And but we partner with a lot of TV stations. We have to follow FCC rules with the podcast here a little bit, so I can't play the swear word for you, but it's been fun to sneak in as many of these Coleman Shelton drops.
Fire, man!
Coleman Shelton drops throughout the show today. Maybe we'll, at least for the rest of this week, we'll find ways to keep sneaking in Coleman Shelton yelling. I want to try and make this a thing every once in a while. Maybe we can make like a weekly segment, like who is the effing fire of the week for the Chicago Bears, brought to you by Coleman Shelton. I don't know. If you have a creative idea for how we can use the Coleman Shelton drop, let me know. You can tweet us at Locked On Bears. You can post in the Locked On Bears Facebook group. You can comment on the Locked On Bears Instagram channel or TikTok channel or on YouTube here, of course. However you do it, just make sure you hit the subscribe button on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts, because that's going to be the best way to keep up with all of our daily, in-depth Chicago Bears news and analysis. Thanks for making Locked On Bears your first listen today. Come on back tomorrow, make us your first listen once again as we go through the All-22 film and break down this game a little bit more in depth. And, of course, we'll make sure that on every episode of Locked On Bears, we leave you with another opportunity to bear down.